Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.
Hi, everybody. As we enter the year 2026, we want to take a look back at 2025. As we do yearly, it's our top 10 sports stories from our Bayou region, and we do it backwards. We start from 10 and go down to 1. Let's take a look at number 10. Our 10th story related to our Bayou region revolves around the shuffling of coaches. It's been a few years since we had this happen, but we're starting to see a domino effect related to coaches. It all actually started about a week after the high school football season ended. Shelly Vidros, head football coach at Central Lafourche, decided to resign. So he resigns. Now he's going to stay at Central Lafourche as athletic director, but that opened up a head coaching position, obviously in football. And Aaron Babin, who is from Lockport, he's a native. He is also an alumni of Central Lafourche, decides he wants to go back, so he leaves his South Terrebonne position. So now South Terrebonne is open as he gets that job, and Justin Learett, who went to South Terrebonne, who was at Hornville High School, decides to apply. He gets the job at South Terrebonne. He'll be taking over at South Terrebonne. And we think everything's full, and then we find out Sterling Washington decides that he wants to resign from H.L. Bourgeois High School. So again, the domino effect starts. We don't know at this point what's going to happen at H.L. Bourgeois High School, but I'm sure it's going to happen in early January. So this story carries over. Who knows, if he leaves H.L. Bourgeois, that might open up a situation there. We'll see how that all works out going forward. Then we move down to number 9. At number 9, our big story related to the Bayou region sports is Vanderbilt Catholic softball excellence. They win their 16th state title. Unbelievable. The Blue Bloods. As a matter of fact, this story actually could be higher related to its importance, but they win so many. They're so good. This year, under the directorship of Jane Spearman and assistant coach Margaret Haydell, who's got a couple under her belt, they go an astounding 29-2 to take the championship in Division II Select. Along the way, they defeat Cabrini, they defeat David Thibodeau High, and then you see this, the semifinal game where they defeated Buckeye, which may have been the game of the tournament, and in the state championship, which happened on May 4th, they defeated St. Charles Catholic 7-5 to take it home. Lexi Mathern was the most valuable player in that game. Lauren Baudouin, a terrific pitcher, had one heck of a year and tournament. She had over 500 career strikeouts, and she's coming back. And Hayes Rutledge, the catcher for Vanderbilt, was certainly a leader. And get this, folks, that team has no seniors. There are no seniors on that team. They'll all be back this upcoming year, so expect another one from the Lady Terriers. Let's move on to number 8. At number 8, it's the redistricting and the redivisioning of some of our local teams. A few things we haven't seen in quite some time, a few things we haven't seen at all related to new districts and divisions. Now, when it comes to districts, not a whole lot of change. As you can see there, District 8-5A is still the same, usual suspects. But in District 8-4A, we have Lutcher and Vanderbilt Catholic moving out. They'll be in classification 3A. Then in District 3A, obviously, you got to get some teams in there. Berwick going to be in there along the way, and some other teams like Lutcher. We just mentioned that. But, man, when you got St. James and St. Charles Catholic coming in, that makes it interesting. And then in divisions, as a little bit of shift. You see E.D. White and Vanderbilt still going to be in the same division, but so will Houma Christian and CCA related to how they play. They're going to be in the same classification, but when it comes to district, they split up just a little bit. And by the way, St. Charles Catholic, Loyola Prep, University High, they're moving out of Division II. So we're going to see a lot more, I think, from Vanderbilt Catholic and E.D. White related to state championships going forward. And finally, at number 7, it's a big story related to a guy we've been pulling for a long time. E.D. White Catholic alum Cam Sanders makes it to the big leagues. Listen, we just don't have a lot of big league guys from our area, and that's a fact over the years. So for him to get called up by the Pittsburgh Pirates is awesome. Of course, Cam played at Northwest Florida, right out of E.D. White, then at LSU for a while. He was selected in the 12th round of the 2018 draft by the Cubs. But in January of this year, he decided to sign with the Pirates. He does that, and it paid big dividends. He was promoted to the big club on August 5th, 2025, and actually that night got some relief work in against the Giants. He had 2 scoreless innings, and he had his first K of his entire career. And you saw his mom and dad. There's his mom. They were excited as they were out at the game. He pitched in 6 games for the Pirates, all in relief this year. Didn't have any decisions, and had an ERA of 8.1, but a really good whip at .310. Again, a terrific accomplishment to be called up by the Pirates. That's number 7. And of course, we're going to go down from 6 all the way to our top story of this year in our next segment. So we want you to stick around. In our next segment, it's going to be 6 to 3. Stick around. We'll be back right after this timeout.
Stay tuned for more Bayou Time Sports, brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System, Community Sports Institute, Barker Honda, and Barker Kia.
Hi, everybody. We are looking at our top 10 Bayou Region sports stories of 2025. In this segment, we're going to go from 6 to 3. But first, let's recap from 10 to 7. At number 10, it was the coaching shuffle. A lot of our coaches in the area on the football level are deciding to move on, so it's making a domino effect. We'll see how that all turns out here in 2026. Let's go to number 9. At number 9 is Vanderbilt softball winning another championship, Sweet 16. At number 8, it was the new districts and the new divisions in the Louisiana High School Athletic Association and how it affected our Bayou region. And finally, at number 7, it was Cam Sanders making it to the big leagues back in August. Congratulations to him. And now we move on. Let's go to number 6. Our big number 6 is the Vanderbilt Lady Terriers basketball team. Bring it home. First time since 2010, Vanderbilt's Lady Terriers win a basketball state championship under the tutelage of Jaworski Coleman. The ladies this year went out in the playoffs, defeated Carver, Leesville, Parkview Baptist, and in the state championship, they took care of number 5 seed Madison Prep 46-42. That was on March 8th in the University Center on the campus of Southeastern. Michaela Charles was the most valuable player. Tiana Stewart had 11 points in that game, 8 rebounds. Journey Johnson had 8 points. Both Tiana and Journey are going to be back this upcoming year. The Lady Terriers billed this past season as the revenge tour because remember, they were self-disqualified in 2024, so they wanted to make sure that didn't happen again, and they went out to the University Center and really put on a show. None of the games particularly close except for that state championship game. Again, last one was in 2010, and I have a feeling with the talent they have coming back, and Coach Coleman does a terrific job, I would not be surprised to see the Lady Terriers competing for another one this upcoming year. Moving on to number 5. At number 5, our story is E.D. White brings home 4 in a week. That's right, folks, 4 state championships in a week. There's only one other time that this has happened in the history of high school sports, and guess who did it? E.D. White 4 years ago. E.D. White's boys and girls cross-country team and their boys and girls swim teams won state championships. I say a week. It really wasn't even a week. It was from November 17th when they had the cross-country state championships to November 20th when they had the swim state championships. Again, the boys and girls cross-country teams won it all in Natchitoches and really didn't have any problems there, and they're very young, going to have a lot of those kids coming back. The swim teams did it in Sulphur at the Sulphur Recreation Pool there, which is a beautiful facility, and they're very young. They have a lot of individuals who are going to be coming back next year, so expect another one in all probability for these young men and young ladies. Jordan Reed does a terrific job with cross country. Andrea Lotz does a terrific job with swimming there at E.D. White. 4 state championships in 1 week. Let's move on to number 4. At number 4, our big story is something that just has never happened at this school before, the first state championship in the history of Houma Christian. Now, I realize that some other schools might have more prestigious state championships, but that wasn't the first for any of those schools. This is the first in this school's history, which began back in 1985. Wendy Delgado does a terrific job with her cross-country runners. And again, on November 17th up in Natchitoches, these kids went out and won a Division IV boys state championship, easily outdistancing Lafayette Christian and the Dunham School, 2 very prestigious schools in athletics. And get this, folks, they finished with 5 kids in the top 30, and all of them are coming back. There's nobody who's moving on. So there's a great chance that these young kids could do it again this upcoming year. August Facey, Zach Whitaker, Ethan Vidros, Marcus Arsenault, and Aiden Duplantis finished in the top 30. There you see some of those kids there. And, of course, they came in on the set here at HTV. It was great to have them. Congratulations. First state championship ever for Houma Christian. And then we move on to number 3. And number 3 is something we're getting used to, and we would love to see it happen again and again and again. LSU's baseball wins a national championship, 8 and counting. That's right, they won their 8th national championship in Omaha. They made it to the finals, taking on Coastal Carolina in a best 2 out of 3, and it didn't even get to that 3rd game. They won it in their first 2 games. Not necessarily easily, but with the pitching that LSU had, and it really came around with Anthony Iverson, Chase Shores, Kason Evans, they put away Coastal Carolina. Remember these names, because we're going to remember them for a long time. Derek Curiel, Stephen the Monster Milam, Luis Hernandez, Jared Jones, Daniel Dickerson, Jake Brown, Chris Stanfield, Michael Braswell. Just a terrific year. The Tigers finished the year at a really amazing 53-15 mark on the year. Jay Johnson wins his 2nd national championship with the Tigers. He won one 2 years ago. He won one this year. I hope he doesn't take a year off. I hope we could get another one in line soon. Again, LSU wins again. Congratulations to them. And with that, in our next segment, we're going to give you the top 2 stories of 2025. You'll want to stick around for that. We'll be back after this break.
Stay tuned for more Bayou Time Sports, brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System, Community Sports Institute, Barker Honda, and Barker Kia.
Hi, everybody. We have been going on a countdown, finding the top 10 sports stories of 2025. In this segment, we're going to get to 1 and 2, but we're going to do it in reverse order. First, let's set you up by going back from 10 to 3. At number 10, it was the coaching shuffle in football. Central Lafourche, South Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois. We have some shuffling going on. That's going to carry into 2026. At number 9, it was Vanderbilt Catholic winning their 16th state championship. At number 8, it was the new districts and the new divisions set up by the LHSAA that affect our Bayou region. At number 7, it was Cam Sanders making it to the big leagues back in August with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Congratulations to Cam. At number 6, it's the Lady Terriers basketball team bringing home a state championship from Southeastern at Hammond. And they did that in the University Center there. At number 5, E.D. White won 4 state championships in a week, boys and girls cross country, boys and girls swimming. At number 4, it's the first state championship in the history of Houma Christian as their boys cross country team brought home the Division IV title. And at number 3, it was LSU baseball winning again their 8th national championship, and I'm sure there's more on the horizon for the Tigers. And now it's number 2. At number 2, I don't think it's a big surprise. Obviously, with things going well for the Saints, the hiring of Kellen Moore. If you guys remember, back in January, the Saints was sort of a mess, right? They couldn't find a coach. But this young man was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that offense won the Super Bowl. 2 days later, the Saints announced that Kellen Moore is the head coach. Kellen Moore was a terrific football player at Boise State. As a matter of fact, as a quarterback, he started for 4 years and has the record for most wins as a quarterback in NCAA football history with 49 wins, only 3 losses while he was up there. He comes into the Saints. He thought he was going to have Derek Carr. No Derek Carr. He drafts this young man, Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck comes on and is having one heck of a year. Of course, the first draft choice for the Saints in that draft was not Tyler Shuck. It actually was a young man who did a pretty good job on the offensive line for the Saints, Kelvin Banks. But the Saints are playing well now, and people who thought that that was maybe not a wise move to get Kellen Moore in here are sort of rethinking things just a little bit. He certainly got the attention of all the team. He seems to have the respect of all of the players in the locker room. For the first time, the Saints have won all of their games in December. That's very impressive. They have a chance to close it out with 5 straight wins. So at number 2, it's the hire of Kellen Moore by the Saints, and who knows what's in store in the future, because a lot of this was done with no superstars, right? It was done with guys who are sort of a nose to the grindstone kind of guys. So we'll see how it's going to play out in the future. And finally, our number 1 story, I don't think a real big surprise, all relates to the Lane train, right? The drama that went along with it all. LSU getting a new coach. There he is, Lane Kiffin, coming into Baton Rouge. It all started actually with us sort of getting disenchanted with Brian Kelly, and that happened when LSU took on Texas A&M. They were pretty much humiliated, and he on the sideline was just berating some of his coaches. He's just a guy that sort of got to be unlikable, so he leaves. And remember, our governor got in the middle of all of it, and he made the national circuit where he was talking about why and the situation with paying so much for a head coach. But then we sort of turn around and we want to get the best coach who's out there. Remember, while all of this is going on, Scott Woodward, the athletic director at LSU, resigns, and you also have Verge Ellsbury moving up into that role. So it was really a mess, and there is Lane Kiffin. Everybody wants him. LSU wants him, but obviously money is going to be involved with that also. After some kind of secrecy for a couple of days, Lane Kiffin is sort of stalked by everybody. He makes the decision to come. He would have loved to have stayed at Ole Miss and finish out this year, as they are in the midst of competing for a national championship, but it doesn't work out. A lot of bad blood between the 2 universities. Ironically, the entire offense of Ole Miss is being coached by future LSU coaches, and LSU was coached in the bowl game by Frank Wilson, and he's going to Ole Miss. Kind of hard to figure out college football these days. Nonetheless, our number 1 story, and I don't think anybody would argue that, especially with the drama that has been all around it, the Lane train. Coming to town is Lane Kiffin, and 2026 ought to be really interesting. I have a feeling that in the year 2026, at the end of, when we're talking about this in December, Lane Kiffin in some way, shape, or form is going to be in our top 10 again for that year. So we'll see how it all pans out. Again, that is the top 10, looking at all of the stories in our sports story. It hasn't been a real eventful year. Obviously, congratulations to all those state championship teams, but we're hoping for a really good 2026. And for all of us here at HGV, we hope you have a wonderful new year. Got to take a break. We'll be back after this timeout.
This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.